Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. Please be sure to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/Reading with Your Kids, on Twitter, Jedley Magic, and on Instagram at Reading with Your Kids. Our guest today is the author of The Hug Store. His name is Rick Morrison. Before Rick joins us, I want to let you know about something that I'm really excited about. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think I'd be excited about it at all. In fact, I thought I would hate it. But I've been presenting my educational magic show, We Will Roar, Respect Others and Read, virtually through the power of Zoom to schools all across the country. And it's been a lot of fun. It's surprisingly fun for me and surprisingly interactive. That was one of the things that was challenging for me. I knew that I could get up in front of a camera and present a show and communicate, but I thought it would be I wasn't looking forward to it. I don't like performing for cameras. I love performing for kids and interacting with kids and helping to make kids the star of my show. And I thought, how in the world can I do this when we are separated by miles, and in some cases separated by oceans? Well, it is possible, and I've been doing it, and the kids who've been experiencing We Will Roar, Respect Others and Read, have really loved it and have really had a great time. I would love to bring this show virtually to your community. Please find out about the show by going to our website, wewillroar.com. And send me a note. We'll talk about it. We can set this up. And the neat thing about it is it's really flexible. It's really easy to present a show for kids in Indiana in the morning and kids in Australia in the afternoon. That's one of the things that's incredible. So I have given myself a new goal. I actually want to perform a show for kids on every single continent except Antarctica. There's probably not a lot of kids down there. But that's my goal, to present shows for kids in as many countries as possible on every single continent during this time of worldwide school closing. So please visit my website, wewillroar.com. Joining us right now from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, and California, he is the co-author of a really good book called The Hug Store. Please welcome to the show, Rick Morrison. Rick, how are you?
Hi, Jed. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on and being the co-author. The other half isn't here, but I'll cover for her. That's my daughter, Shauna. And we're good. We're doing really well.
I had the pleasure of meeting Rick in person back in October of 2019. Rick was also participating in the Orange County Children's Book Festival. And I have to tell you, Rick was, we had heard about each other, and I was kind of walking around doing the rounds, and he recognized me because I was wearing my goofy Jedley on-stage magic show clothes, and he called me over and gave me a great big hug. Just made me feel like we had been friends forever. And that was so wonderful, being so far away from home and being by myself, surrounded by all these people, but it's like I'm alone in a crowd, and then here is this friend that I've never met before, and boom, just made me feel at home. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
My pleasure. It's kind of sad that right now, as we're talking about this, as I'm celebrating the fact that, just a few months ago, I met you, and it was okay to get a big hug from you, and it was okay to be at the Orange County Children's Book Festival with 40,000 people, and now it's not. And now we're at this time where kids are missing hugging their grandparents, and if they are able to see their grandparents, it's from a distance and usually through a window. Things have really changed in just a few months, and I don't know. As the author of the Hug Store, I want to know about the book. But as the author of the Hug Store, how is this affecting you?
It's a lot to digest for sure, and it's taken a few weeks to kind of really explore where hugs went, why they went away. But what I have cultivated from this awareness is that it's, hugs are a commodity like anything else, and it's a commodity I think that we really took for granted. And people who hug and even people who don't see the value that other people get from hugging, and we never really had gratitude that we could hug. There's things like that, and those are reminders for so many other things in our life that we may take for granted that, hugs can go away. And while I don't think it'll be, super long term, I think how we connect physically will evolve and change. And I do think hugs will come back. And I was talking with a colleague of mine last week, Dr. Tiffany Field from the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami School of Medicine. And she was saying that, touch is so important. And we were agreeing to agree that without it, part of us is literally missing. And I've always likened it to, when a baby's held for 9 months, inside the mother, they're hugged. Mm-hmm. And they're used to that. When they come out into the world, that's the first thing that they need is a hug. And I remember this as a dad. I was always on swaddling duty when we were raising our daughter, Shauna. And my then wife, my former wife, she would always be like, you're wrapping her too tight. And I said, she just spent 6 months inside you. Or 9 months. She loves this. And every time I'd wrap her really tight, the tighter I'd wrap her, the quicker she would fall back asleep. Mm. It was like directly proportional. So you ask about like hugs and touch, we need it. Mm-hmm. I think the handshake maybe, may go a different route, and maybe that's seeing its day, but I do really believe that as we become more, there's cure for this and everything, that people will start hugging again. And when they do, it's going to be even more powerful because there'll be such gratitude for it.
Mm. As you're talking about that and reminding us how important it is for humans to be touched and to feel that love. I'm here, and it's difficult for me in this time of quarantine, but I'm with my beautiful wife and Augie the doggy. So I have someone who can touch me, and I have a friend who can curl up on my lap. I'm just thinking, there are friends that don't have that. There are friends who are alone. And they're in their homes alone, and hopefully, they have people who can deliver food, but it's touchless, it's curbside, and all that kind of stuff. And I can't imagine how difficult it would be for me to go a month and a half, 2 months without any kind of contact with another human being.
I'm kind of experiencing that. We share custody of our daughter, so she's been with mom more than me, and I have no pet. So it's been like that. About a year and a half ago, a Facebook follower reached out and, long before COVID-19 and said, I don't have anybody to hug. What can I do? And Dr. Field and I were talking about different ways, and it actually became part of our curriculum that we have in schools and for children, but is to hug yourself. And it sounds really weird, and kind of like, well, what's the point? It's like trying to give yourself a back massage. It'll feel okay, but it'll never feel as good as somebody else doing that. And while that's true, you are still stimulating touch receptors in your body and your vagal nerve, which the whole science behind the vagal nerve and how that works through different systems in your body, your heart, your digestive, your spinal. It's really amazing, and you can get benefit from it. The key is to actually hug yourself, though, for like 21 seconds to really feel what it feels like and be in the moment of that hug. So there's that, and there's other things that are things that you wouldn't necessarily think, but yoga, Tai Chi, all those things where you're stimulating pressure points on yoga. If you're leaning in, partially on your shoulder, but also on your thigh, you're getting massage. It doesn't feel quite the same way, but the benefits of it are similar. So there's things that you can do, and I encourage people to, look at our Facebook page for resources, and TRI, the Touch Research Institute, has a lot as well.
Wow, it's so much. There's so much here to dig into. I mean, a lot of it, like you said, we take hugs for granted, and it was just, hey, how are you? Give a little hug, and you didn't think much more about it. You obviously have, there's a science behind it, and there's science has shown that there's a benefit to hugs, and especially that hug that lasts more than 20 seconds. I want to get into more of that, but I don't want to take too much more time before we talk about the hug store. There's a beautiful cover. Can you talk about the cover of the book?
Sure, Jed. Thank you. So the hug store is really a hug of love of how this book was created, and really it's a hug in itself, just the book, not only about what it's about, but it was based on a true event that happened with my daughter when we were visiting my family in Michigan for Thanksgiving. And, my father, her grandfather, wanted a hug. And, like so many grandparents, they come with this lack of kind of entitlement, but a little bit lack of awareness of, honoring what's the child thinking? What's the child feeling? They're more thinking, well, I want a hug. And my dad asked her, where's my hug? And nothing wrong with that, with asking it, but it's when somebody or anybody steps beyond that, where they demand a hug, they feel they're entitled to a hug. And Shauna at that time said no. Well, the first time she ignored him. Second time she said no. And he asked the third time, and this was actually at the airport in Detroit. And the third time she said, Grandpa, I'm all out of hugs. I'll have to go to the store and buy one for you. And kids just say the most random, cute things. She'd never heard this. We never saw it anywhere before. And I just tucked that away because what she was doing in that moment was really bigger than my father was. She went into this place of, I know he's important and I want to respect him, but at the same time, I want to be playful and use humor to diffuse a really tense situation that the whole family was feeling. And literally in that moment with her creativity, everyone laughed. And what could have been such a ego thing for my dad, we just all chuckled about it. And we chuckled about it, for days on end, that it became a book. And with the cover, what it basically shows is that, Shauna looking for hugs, literally if she was going to go to a store and look for one to bring home to Grandpa, she visits all these stores, and she could be looking in stores forever. And that's why the store shelf basically goes on forever on the cover. And until she actually discovers that she is the hug store and has the ability to consciously choose to hug if and when and how she responds and gives a hug. At that point, she realized it within her, and she doesn't have to search outside of her body for something. And it's really a bigger analogy to how we move through life, that, whether we have addictions for, eating or shopping or whatever our du jour, moment is to take us off our path of finding out who we are, there's a time that you can go within and realize that I had the answers all along. So that's what the book cover symbolizes, and how, she really is the hug store herself, and there is no hug store physically.
That's a beautiful story, and I, as you were telling it, I could feel the tension. I knew what that must have felt like, for, oh, Granddad, I want to hug you, and the kid like, I'm not really ready for it. And, I can absolutely understand the relief when that funny moment came up. and kind of diffuse the situation. And so what a great inspiration for the book. But I'm wondering what was it that made you dig deeper? Because there's a lot of authors that we've had here on the show that had a special moment with their kids and turned that into a book, and that's wonderful. But you've gone so deep into the science of hugging and the importance of hugging, and you've been a part of some amazing events. I mean, you were part of the Guinness World Book of Records biggest group hug thing. You can explain that, but what was it that kind of inspired you to go deeper with this?
Well, I think seeing it through my daughter's eyes, and that at the time I called it the world's most expensive arts and crafts project, and maybe other authors have said that to you. When you do a book with your child, or even, you don't know how you're going to sell it, and all of a sudden 3,000 books show up in your garage, and you're like, now what? And honestly, a lot of authors, myself included, didn't have a plan. So the plan came out of the necessity to have the plan, the whole mother of invention thing. And so I kind of followed Shauna's lead with it, and how do you think we sell these? And she's like, well, it's about hugging. So, at schools, we developed a curriculum that's actually rooted in what children want to do. The children help develop the curriculum. So it's actually based on something they want to do, and it has pre and post assessment, and it's really powerful, and it helps them grow and realize things about themselves that they didn't know prior. So what we did with that is, Shauna leaned into the hugging because, at that point she didn't see the whole greater awareness part, and, I didn't expect her to, but we really leaned into the whole hugging part. So I simultaneously people reached out to me when they saw the book, the hug doctor, clinical psychologist in St. Louis, who wrote a book called Hug Therapy, which is an amazing book that just came out, and Kevin Zaborny from National Hugging Day. I sought him out, and we all kind of came together at one time to really buoy ourselves up in our power all together. We realized we had this, massive social media when we grouped together with a, common denominator theme. And while our branding was all different, we all shared the same end goal, and that's one of, compassion, tolerance, unity, diversity, and really helping, our communities, ourselves grow, our families grow, our communities grow, and, really, working outwards to the whole world growing, which I think right now is giving us a real time out to be able to actually work even more on that. But that's how it came to be. One step prior to even the hugging, though, was the ability to do inner work myself that allowed me to take time to really see what Shauna was seeing. Because so often parents, we're so distracted and occupied, and one of our endorsers, Dr. Shafali Saburi, she has this great quote about, the clash of time zones with children. And we're in a clash of time zones always, and we know that even scheduling things in our grown-up life. But, kids are always living in the present moment. Mm-hmm. And we're living in the past or in the future. And until we actually come into our children, our grandchildren's being where they're at, which is in the moment, which is really what all my work goes back to, we don't understand, so we can't see what they're seeing and feel what they're feeling. So the hug store came about from the ability to see what Shauna was really feeling and take the time and explore that. So I have gratitude that I took time to, do a lot of inner work, which, isn't fun sometimes and can feel really not good. And, sometimes it's cathartic, sometimes it's really emotionally draining, but the richness and rewards from it, I think, are the things that you see that you normally wouldn't have seen. So that's the behind the scenes. And I think if we all take time to cultivate awareness ourselves, we'll see things in our children that would have been missed, and that will, give great fruitage for your family, your relationships, and all that. It's kind of a long answer, but there's a lot packed in there.
Well, it is a long answer, but I appreciate it because I think, there may be some people who would see the title of the hug story and kind of go, I'm not so much big into hugs, and just kind of like, oh, it's just another feel good. Give yourself a hug and smell
Right.
a rose. But it's much more than that. And one of the questions I was going to ask before you answer that question is, what about I hear a lot about folks who are on the autism spectrum and they have sensitivity issues. I know people in my life who don't, like a hug is the worst thing in the world for them. They're
Right.
very uncomfortable with that. And so I was going to say, well, what about folks who have this issue? But you kind of answered that because you're not saying go out and hug everybody you meet. It's like become aware of the people you meet. Be present with them. Understand them. Be accepting of them, understanding, and just celebrate the fact that we are different.
Yeah. I mean, there's the short way through this to find out if someone wants a hug is obviously just consent. Asking somebody if it's a stranger and free hugs or something like that. Mm-hmm. But, we already have the answers. And it's kind of how the hug store talks about. We intuitively have those answers. And if we are really presently aware, we'll be able to read someone's body language. Mm-hmm. We may be even able to feel their energy and know it doesn't feel right. And you'll know not to even try to give a hug or maybe even ask for that consent because you already know the answer. Mm-hmm. So, and you were saying earlier before we came on, with teachers and some of the school system's inabilities to have touch and explore that with is I think really takes away, what I love are some of those viral videos of when you see different teachers and you can see why they're so loved and why those videos went viral because they approach each child in that child's own unique way to connect. And some of that may be a dance and they're not even touching, but yet they're connecting on that same level. Others are a warm embrace. Others are a fist bump or, some magical, specialty, touch they made up. And those are so powerful. So it just shows that you don't necessarily need to have the hug to still have that connection. You can have it, but it's all in your awareness of how you approach the other person.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love, as much as I love to get hugged and give hugs, it's really important to make that connection, to take the time, because it's kind of easy. Just go up, give someone a hug, and, if you're not thinking about it, you're not aware of the person, it's kind of meaningless. And on the other hand, if you really connect with someone, you take the time to understand that person, that's a connection that's really changed someone's life.
Yeah, and there is a reciprocal nature of hugging, too, that I think people sometimes forget. You always think that you're getting a hug or you're going to give those 10 people a hug when you see them. But really, you're giving each other a hug because you can't give a hug without receiving a hug. Mm-hmm. I mean, they work, in symmetry together. And it's kind of like a breath. You can't have an out breath without an in breath and vice versa. So, if you look at the context of that, it's so natural. It's part of our human, cycle of how we live that we can actually go through and be able to hug somebody and really enjoy the hug. I think I went off on a touch point though from your original question.
That's okay. We love going off road here on the show. There's no problem at all. I want to get back to something just because you told me that you're part of a world record, and I know I didn't give the record. I didn't say what the record was exactly, but tell us what that was.
It's so funny. I don't normally ever look at devices, but I will say my former wife texted me that our daughter's violin is in quarantine too, which is really funny. I just had to think that a violin is in quarantine. But what happened with the Guinness Book of World Records is and I know people aren't seeing this, but we approached Huggies and different sponsors that thinking that we're a nonprofit. How are we going to actually do an event that has a global scale with, massive reach And the only way we could do that was with a financial partner who really understood. So we wanted a partner that really understood the power of hugs. In fact, when Huggies supported us that year with sponsorship, they actually wanted to use that title, the power of hugs. And they were working with neuroscientists to see how children react that were hugged, that weren't hugged. Tiffany Field has an amazing study out of Romania from an orphanage about children that were hugged and not hugged. And Huggies understood what we were trying to achieve with this is that hugging, especially when taught young, helps people become more whole within them, but also helps them contribute more to society. So Guinness Book of World Records also underline all their stuff that they have just about world records. They really believed in that. Like, how can we bring our society together better to have people understand each other, empathy, compassion? I mean, it's everywhere these days. It's, all these things are like the new hip. Mm-hmm. And I really think we're just evolving as a society slowly, but we're getting there. And so when we went into this, we went with, well, how would we do a group hug? And we realized that, trying to get 10,000 people to hug, well, it looked really good. It was a lot to orchestrate. And in future years, that might be something we've talked about, a coastal hug along, from like, San Diego, to Los Angeles, and all these different ways of having this massive, literally physical hug. But, we did something with nationalities because it's kind of that observer effect and, effect that astronauts talk about when they are out in space. They look back on the Earth and you just see this blue, beautiful marble. You don't see borders and flags and all of that. So what we did on National Hugging Day was we tried to replicate that same sort of feeling where we had people representing, I think we had about 78 different countries, and those representatives of each country all got together in one hug that was, manageable. Mm-hmm. And that was really powerful and brought tears to everyone's eyes. There's been about, 2,000 people in the room, and
wow,
it was magical.
So cool. I mean, some days when you're looking at the news and you're hearing all the negativity, it's hard to believe that you could actually get people from 70 different countries to be in a room together and smile at each other. Never mind coming together for a big group hug. Right.
It really goes to show that we all want the same thing.
Yes.
We want love and we want health for our families, and we want to be educated, and we want to expand who we are and follow our dreams. And those are really, you look, and the media is important, but also there's some distortion sometimes because, it's limited in what you're seeing. And, when you see a lot of things that aren't good, you think that there's more potentially not good than there is good. But really, all families are alike around the world, and they want the best for their children. So when you kind of come from that perspective, that's how you get all these people into a group. And it's really natural. We didn't have to talk anybody into it. In fact, it's, we had waiting lists for people from different countries that were, if Thailand cancels, I'll do Thailand. It was really cool.
That is so cool. Well, I know folks are going to want to know where they can connect with you, find out more about the Hug Store and all the different things that you're involved in. So let everybody know where to find you.
So thank you, Judd. We're thehugstorebook.com. You can find our book, our coloring books, some great things around that. Also, hugthemoment.org is our nonprofit that we'll be sharing more about in the coming years, and that supports the nationalization of social emotional learning and integrating it into schools nationwide and then beyond at that point. And of course, the books are available on Amazon for those that just want that route, and they're the same price on Amazon. I strategically did that so it's a level playing field, because I think that we should just support each other, and whatever's the easiest way for you to pick up our book, we want to encourage you to do it that way.
Awesome. Well, we've had a fantastic time speaking to the co-author of The Hug Store, Rick Morrison. He wrote the book with his daughter, Shauna. Rick, thank you so much for being part of the show today.
Jed, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you hopefully later this year, and we can hug again at the Orange County Book Fair.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We have two great authors coming on the show, Ariane Costner and our friend Harsha Sheelam. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a great children's book, you want to check out our Certified Great Read program. You can find out all about this program by visiting our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Author Services button at the top of the page, and it'll let you know about the program. And if you have any questions, you can ask our great author ambassador, Peggy Cotto, at peggy@jedlie.com. And Jedlie is spelled Jedlie, jedlie.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Rick Morrison. Be sure to check out The Hug Store. Also want to thank my incredible team, starting with the aforementioned awesome author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. Also want to thank my incredible producer, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank you. You're doing an incredible job. I know you're so frustrated. You love it for school to be back in session. You didn't train to be a teacher, and it's hard and it's frustrating. Your kids have already said that they hope they have a new teacher next year. But believe me when I tell you that you are doing a wonderful job. Your kids will remember this. They will look back on this time and realize it was a scary time, it was a frustrating time, but it was a time when more than anything else, they felt your love. So thank you. Thank you so very, very much. And please know that you are making the world a better place every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking through in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.